President of EIPM. Welcome for this webinar, part of the 30th anniversary of the EIPM. For 40 years, we have been working for you on the human being in terms of evaluating competence and then trying to improve these competencies. So this is a very core important element. Second point I would like to mention is this is a global webinar. People from Asia, people from America, people from Europe, and it's the same problems all around the world, how to evaluate competence and why to evaluate competence. What I'm going to cover today, it's very quickly EIPM in a nutshell, then bringing some results from the survey. So basically we sent a survey, some of you perhaps answer this survey. This survey is going to be on and maintained on the website. But here are some results from this survey. The third point be why do we assess competence and how to assess competencies? What do we do ourselves for these 2 points? So very quickly, jumping in, EIPM, some of you know EIPM, some of you don't know EIPM. So very quickly, EIPM is a school. We have been here for 30 years, global institute. We train around 5,000 people per year. In 9 different languages, 2 campuses, one in Arshon near Geneva and one in Shanghai, and we have 7 branches around the world. 3 main pillars. One pillar which is about research. We just published a book on the 5th generation on sale on Amazon. We are publishing different white papers. And all this research come to education and in company. So education, we have different certification program, an XD MBA, XD diploma, and all of these are certified by IFPSM, International Federation for Purchasing and Supply Management. This education can be used then in customized programs in companies. Based on that, we also have 2 main streams, one which is for learning tools, implementing some e-learnings, implementing webinars, and the other one is tools such as competence assessments and maturity assessment of the organization. We've been working with a lot of different companies. So here are just some examples of companies where we have been developing some academies. We, as I say, we train around 5,000 people per year in different languages around the world. These are the certification programs we're implementing. So 3 main blocks: 1 block for newcomers, 1 block for non-executive, and 1 block for executive program people. Non-executive first certification L1. Then for non-executive, we have the buying for performance for buyer, one which is achieving purchasing excellence for CATMAN, and level 4 is leading purchasing transformation for category for managers. And then for executive diploma, executive MBA. Just this very quickly in a nutshell, what is the EIPM? I would like to jump in some results of the survey. So we did not get so many answers. We got over 60 people, but it's quite interesting. The first points are about the organization. So basically, we got some big organization, central-led, 92%, so quite everybody was central-led. But the second question was pretty interesting because even though companies were central-led, the job roles were not necessarily central-led. So we got some information proving that in a central organization, we have non-centralized job desks. So this is our first information. The second point is about job roles is, do you currently have some job description? Yes, 70% of a complete job description. And what's interesting is the spread, the number of jobs. So 40%, quite half after less than 4 jobs, 40%, 5 to 8. So 80% have 8 jobs. So it's interesting to see how companies are different in terms of terminology, in terms of job description, the number of jobs, for the same type of company. So this is also an interesting point to analyze. Competence level, yes, companies evaluate, establish, and validate competence level for each jobs. So this is a quite important point also. And majority of companies are using internal tool for assessing competence. So we don't have yet the information what type of tool is this, but basically companies who are assessing yearly jobs are assessing with an internal tool. How frequently do you run competence? Every year, half of companies are assessing every year, and the other one is whether once in a while or whether when we have job review. And quite important is, do you use competence assessment to benchmark your role against the market? Just 50%. So basically, when we speak about company are assessing people based on their own job roles without necessarily comparing these job roles to the market and not getting any complete view of the level of people we have, the level of job we have compared to a market, of its right level, and the level of people we have for these jobs, are they at the right level compared to the market? So it's interesting that even though the companies are doing some assessment, this is not necessarily clear that the jobs they have been assessed are correct and the level the people are requesting are correct also. So these results, we're going to go on the survey. You still can answer this survey. So we'll be sending you this result survey, but we would like to use this information to go further on and to present our tool and to present the first point is why to evaluate competence. So we have to evaluate competence because jobs we are assessing should be analyzing the competence of today and should also analyze the competence for tomorrow. So we have been differentiating the competence we should have today and the competence we should have tomorrow. So this is the first point. Today, I presented that already. It's a Peter Clashing matrix, you know, the 4 quadrant. And what we think is at EIPM, we think that we should have a team and the different people of the team should answer some of these quadrants. So some people may be for leverage, some people may be for strategic, some people may be for bottleneck, and some people for routine. We say that we should be associated to a quadrant and not be associated necessarily to a category. And I'm just going to explain you that, because when you look at routine, we need a process or to outsource. When we work on leverage, we need to be pretty strong in terms of this type of levers, competition, consolidation, negotiation, these practices. When we deal with strategic items, we're much more working with SRM to limit market risk, or internally to shareholder relation management to manage the risk on design. When we are about bottlenecks, it's about the relation. So when we know that associating Peter Clashing, we know that for each quadrant we should have some good practices. And what we say is these good practices have to be associated with competence. So basically, for routine, we say that the competence we should have is really being a professional on the process. When we work on leverage, we should have competence in for let's what we call standard technical competencies. When we are more working for strategic items, whether we have a profile with this type of empathy, behavioral empathy vis-a-vis the suppliers, and or getting a very technical profile with some empathy for working inside with our stakeholder. When we are in bottlenecks, much more market profile with a behavioral empathy. So again, we say today the competence we should have are associated to the item, to the quadrant in which we're working, and not necessarily associated to the category we're buying. So first point is today, these competencies we just spoke about are leading the job profiles you are in. So this first element, we recruit people for the competence associated to the quadrant, and basically each competence we're recruiting have to be complementary to the other one of the other quadrant. So this is an important point. Now, when we speak about tomorrow, the competence needs are a bit different, and we still need this the competence we just spoke about. Basically, we still need these technical competencies. about cost management, about finance, about international financing, market understanding, micro and macroeconomy, negotiation, contract management, risk project. I mean, all what you know about the purchasing job. But we have to add some behavioral mindset to create or improve and develop relation. We have to more and more speak about marketing mindset, business acumen, entrepreneurship, leadership, communication, active listening. We have to emphasize the idea of agility, trust, humility, and ethic. Why? We have less and less suppliers on the market, and we have to develop a stronger relation, internal relation and external relation. So all these elements are part of this, what we call behavioral mindset. What's interesting is to see that beside these two pillars, the third pillar is some what we can call post-COVID competencies. And we have to jump in this new normality. And we know that COVID has been changing some element in terms of society, and also which has been pushed by or emphasized by the technological changes. And these elements are more lines such as managing with authority. You know that since quite 1 year now, or over 1 year, we are working remotely. How can you manage people without the authority, without being present together? Remote negotiation, more and more design thinking. This has been one key element of this COVID, design thinking. It used to be, and it's interesting to see it bring back. Supply chain. A lot of people in purchasing procurement has been discovering supply chain, and we see the supply chain problems we still have. Digital mindset. When we speak about digital mindset, it's not speaking only about e-procurement, e-RFE, an electronic RFQ, an electronic RFI is the complete digitalization of the chain. Speaking about analytic management, when we have more and more data, we need more and more people capable to think about this and to manage this data. We speak about workflow management and being capable to understand the complete structure, IS structure of the process with operation, with the suppliers, and so on and so forth. We speak about the CSR mindset, speaking about carbon-free calculation. And we know that today, we have to speak about carbon zero, we have to speak about the digitalization, and we have to speak about the CSR, human relation, and so on and so forth. These are key. And we have to add to that all the remote negotiation and remote thinking. So these are competencies for tomorrow, which have to be added to the classic competencies, technical competencies, and the behavioral competencies we just saw. So, and again, the key point is for us, values for value. We know the world is changing. We know that we have less and less supplier. The world is shrinking, changing, and we need the values. If we don't have values, we have our time to create value with our suppliers, with our partners. So get back on the technical elements associated with the quadrant in which we're working, some behavioral, so for value, and the post-COVID, speaking about remote, speaking about the CSR and carbon-free and digitalization. So these are basically the main streams in terms of competence we should have. So why? Basically, it's we have to assess competence to be sure that the people we're going to recruit are fitting the jobs we define and fitting the jobs we should have for tomorrow. So the why. The how, it's also interesting to speak, is to say we have different ways, and the results of the survey is pretty interesting on that. A lot of companies are assessing people associating this competence in procurement with the overall competence of the organization, associating that to the values of the organization. Sometimes just bringing an Excel and trying to see with a self-assessment, getting some ideas. Do you think you are good in negotiation? Do you think you are good in cost? And then getting for a review, face-to-face, and an interview with the managers. What we have been working on is something different. We think that first, we should have a complete panel of competencies associated to the different potential activities that the people can do. So first, activities and competence, which are very important. Not only activities and competence for today, but activities and competence for tomorrow too. So this is the first point. The second point, which is for us very important, is to see, hey, it's nice to have competencies for a job, but are we sure we have the best competencies for the best jobs profile? So basically, it's important for us to benchmark, to get an idea about how you're situated compared to the other ones, compared to the market. So getting first competence associated with activities, but also being capable to benchmark. And the third point is to say, this benchmark is going to give us some gaps, and this is how to improve. So the why we just spoke about is to improve people, to find the right job for people, to improve people, and the why, how is really to define the right job, to define the right competence associated to these activities, and to be capable to benchmark. So this is the idea, the general idea we have been working on. And speaking about the tool we're developing these days, the version 6, the first version started in 2004. We're now launching a version 6, taking into consideration the last points I just mentioned about the competence for tomorrow, much more behavioral elements to evaluate the how to do and how to be. So when you speak about the how, the very first crucial element is to think about, when we speak about competence assessment, we speak about a very touchy point. And if we know that speaking about competence assessment is touchy, we have to speak a lot about the communication and data privacy regulation. So what we have been working on is first, speaking about competence assessment is very heavy, it's touchy. So frequently we speak about learning survey. And we just try to say it's important to have a good idea about your competence, to evaluate this competence for an improvement action plan. It's not you good or not, it's how to improve yourself. So we speak about learning survey. We try to give a good direction to close the gaps. So assessment is interesting, but it's very touchy. It's not to validate if you're good or bad and to fire you. The idea is really to define an improvement action plan with this questionnaire. So the second point is about data privacy. Data privacy is important and is key. Data is confidential, so all what we do is confidential. When you enter in the tool, the first thing is asking you if you agree to share the information, agree to share the electronic information with EIPM, and agree to share the electronic information with your management. So it's important you share with us, for instance, for being capable to benchmark, and we have 99.9% of the people who are sharing with us, and we have 98% of people sharing with manager. Why so high results is because we communicate. We communicate up front. We organize webinar with the participants just to explain that it's just about competence evaluation and to define action plan, improvement action plan. So again, you cannot decide for one day to another for an assessment without speaking about or thinking about the worker council, the unions, HR. Everybody should be around the table. You should have a leader, a project leader, to be sure that this is working perfectly well. So this is a complete project. When we define that, we have one person in the organization and one person on EIPM dealing with this very strong and heavy communication problem and data privacy. Basically, we say it takes 2 weeks for us for communicating with partner to define the right relation with the unions, with the worker council. to be clear with them. This should fit totally, and to define at the same time to customize the activities and competence. So 2 weeks before, we say max 2 weeks for assessing people on online tool, and then 2 weeks for the for analyzing. So basically, in 6 weeks max, we can have a complete results of an assessment. Another point which is important, it's as I said, it's not a self-assessment. You're not going to say, I think I'm good. What we say, you say, prove it. So we have some multiple choice question and multiple choice questions and some simulations. So multiple choice questions are going to evaluate if you know your level of theory about each element. And we have some simulation to evaluate if you know how to do. For instance, a question, competence on cost, for instance, you're going to have some multiple choice questions to analyze the level of theory you know about cost. And then we're going to have some short simulation exercise to validate how to know to apply that. So first, it's not a self-assessment where you're going to say, I think I know. We're going to have some multiple choice questions and some simulations. And then we go also, as I said, we're going to benchmark this information with the market we have. So this is the very important point. So the duration is 6 weeks max. We're going to customize, if necessary, our competence to enter and to fit your need. So basically, today over 20,000 people have been using the tool around the world. The tool is translated in different languages. So basically, it's in English and French, Spanish, Russian, German, Chinese, Italian, Portuguese, and Arabic. And you can have part of the population using it in English and part in German, Italian, and Portuguese, and getting a common report if you want. When you enter, as I say, you're going to accept to share your information. Each individual is going to get his own results, is going to get his own mapping at the end of the assessment, complete picture of competence with his own results in terms of knowledge and in terms of know-how. So basically, each individual is capable to get his mapping with his improvement process action plan. We're going also to have some complete report, what we call manager report, consolidating the information for same jobs. For instance, we're going to have a report for the buyers worldwide, or you can get also a report for a buyer in Europe or for buyer in such category and over. So as we have a lot of information, we can answer all your needs basically. Another point is we suggest that when you enter the tool, you go competence after competence. And it's useless to go straight away and to do it in one shot. It takes around 3 hours. So it's better to go for 2 competence or 3 competence and start again the day after, for instance. So this is in a nutshell a lot of information I just gave. If we go now on how it works, we start from when you have job desk, and we saw that 50% of people companies have job desk. When we have job desk, we start from your job desk. So basically, we take your job desk, we analyze the different activities you have in the job desks, and based on these activities, we associate the skills. So basically, as you can see on the screen, our competence expertise is really in between the activities and the skills. For each of the activities from your job, we determine in the tool the skills we should use. Okay. Now, when you don't have this job desk, and we saw that 50% of companies doesn't have common job desk, we analyze job per job. What are the activities done in your company? So, and based on these activities, we associate the skills and we define job desk. So basically, using the tool, we can get at the end some job description for the jobs the people are doing in your organization. So this is the model. This is a starting point we're using. Now, in the tool, we have in total 47 activities. An activity is negotiating, for instance, and an activity is sourcing. So we have 47 activities, and associated with these activities, we have 62 skills. So basically, if you say an activity of sourcing, what are the competence you should have for sourcing? So competence you should have for sourcing is somehow competence in marketing, market knowledge, communication, and so on and so forth. So some of the competence, as you understand, can be in different activities. So basically, in our tool, we have 47 activities covering the complete chain of purchasing and procurement, and even supply chain. We have a lot of logistics too. We have 62 competencies, and each of these competencies is going to be assessed in terms of knowledge, meaning multiple choice questions, and know-how, meaning in terms of theory. Okay, so this is a tool. Okay, 47 activities, 62 skills, knowledge, and know-how we have in. Now, when we go a bit in detail, as I said, you may have your job, and we say 50% of companies today have some job desks. So we take your job desk and we associate it on the left-hand side, the activities we have, and we discuss to be sure we understand correctly your jobs. We understand correctly what the jobs are doing and to fit the best competence. At the end, when we look at all the activities we have been determining 14 jobs, but which are, let's say, some relative jobs because we're using very frequently the job from the company. So we take the job of a company, we look at the different activities the job is doing, and we associating the skills of this for each of these jobs. Now, if I enter a bit more in the details of the activities, we have 5 major activities, and you're going to see, looking at these titles of activities, that these activities are covering all the jobs. So we start with leading the extended enterprise, and you understand that leading the extended enterprise is more dedicated for the CPO, for general managers. Managing a purchasing function professionally is also more for managers. Strategy and process implementation is more for CADMEN. Sourcing and managing supplier for CADMEN and starting for buyers. And managing operational activities more for buyers. So here we can, when you look at the list, you understand that we can assess as well the CPO as the buyers, because we have other activities. We have 47 activities, as we say, in the system. So if I go a bit deeper in the different activities, leading the extended enterprise is leading purchasing organization, but also participate in M&A. Due diligence, perform in sourcing, outsourcing, foster innovation, promote purchasing added value, develop and improve relation with internal partner. So this is really top. Then we have managing a purchasing function professionally, build organization with KPIs, manage purchasing performance, develop and align, communicate, assess, develop, recognize people, and so on and so forth. So here we're still on the top of the organization. We have a third, which is about strategy and process implementation. So it's gathering short and long-term needs, setting segment category strategies, performance supply market, write the contract and PO, drive value optimization, TCO, TVO. So this is for CADMEN. We speak about sourcing and managing supplier, bill material budget, prospect suppliers, segment and manage supplier, assess performance, and then for the buyers, it's about managing operational activities. So we speak about manage contract, manage order to pay, manage optimize inventory, optimize supply logistics. So we understand that here we have a complete level of activities, and basically we're going to take these activities kind of Lego. We're taking this activity to fit your jobs, and then we're going to take the competence. When we look at competence, we have 6 levels of competencies. I'm not going to cover all these levels of competencies, but we have 6 levels of competencies. We have some competencies which are for the, we can consider foundation, but you know, remember the competencies I show, the competencies which are about the technical elements, basics for the buyer, about the cost, about the market, and so on and so forth. We have some competencies which are more about the total value and total cost. We have some competencies which are about the process. We have competencies about strategy, competence about market, competence about organization and system. So this is a way we have been sharing, splitting the different competencies we have in the tool. Now, just some examples, and by the way, if you're interested, I can send you some login for testing the tool. We can send you also some reports just for you to evaluate it works. But basically, you see that that's some print screen. For one competence, you have different multiple choice question. Normally, for one competence, you have 3 to 4 multiple choice questions and 2 to 3 simulation. And it takes normally around 10 minutes per competence. What we say is for one activity, you may have 3 to 4 competence. So 3 to 4 competence, you see you go very quickly. So one activity, 3 to 4 competence. For each competence, you have 3 multiple choice question and 2 simulations. So it's heavy. And that's the reason why you should onboard people and then to understand it's a way for improving themselves and it's not a punishment. So again, if you're interested, we can send you some logging. You test when you enter the logging, you see you can take one language one over. If you start with one language, you have to go on this language for the demo. If we send you one logging, it's a personal logging, because if you open the assessment, you cannot. If you give the logging, the person to you using the logging after you be not starting from the beginning, but be starting where you stop. So there's some rules, but I mean this is pretty classic in a sense. So do not hesitate, contact me back, and we send you that. So when you understood how it works, you're going to get some results, and the results we have is first scoring, some KPIs, and it's the KPIs are for knowledge and KPIs are for know-how. And you see, we're not going to give you a score, you 20 or 30 or whatsoever. We're going to give you a score, but an explanation of the score. For instance, when you are in between 60 and 80, it means that you have a good conceptual knowledge. Compared to 80 to 100, you have excellent knowledge and capacity to transmit this knowledge. So for each block, we try to explain what is your level, and not just giving you a score saying your 40 is not good. No, 40 is mostly effective. You have a good knowledge of concepts and procedures, and behind is always, for us, a way to communicate with the people who have been assessed, to explain them that they're not bad, but they have to improve. And the way we're giving the score is the way for improving people, okay? And we have to take care about that, because if we're not understanding that is very important elements of communication, we fail, okay? Because again, we speak about competence, we speak about people, we speak about behavior, and it's very touchy. Okay, again, the same also, we have a tool in different languages, as I explained. Very frequently, companies say, well, everybody's speaking English. Yes, but when we speak about people, when we speak about behavior, people prefer to speak in their own language. And we have to respect that, because it's a way also it's not to test your English, it's to test you, your competence. Again, it's also very important. In terms of results, when you look at the results here, you see this is an individual report. So this is the report you're going to get at the end of your assessment on your screen. So you see, for instance, on TCO, you have a competence cost and price breakdown. My score is 62.46. In terms of know-how, meaning practice, I have 70%, and in terms of knowledge, the theory, I have 60, let's say. So you understand that I'm not as good in knowledge that I'm good in know-how. So basically, my score, my low score, if we consider it low score, is depending on my low score in knowledge. So this is the first information I got. Okay. Now, if I go in the second part of a chart, the group market top 25. So I got 62.46 on my competence on cost and price breakdown. my peers, my colleague in my company, the average is 65. So it means that I'm below my colleague. So I'm not as good as the average. So the average 65, meaning that I'm not good at all because I'm under the average. Now, when I look at the market, meaning I told you that 20,000 people went through the tool, perhaps for the buyer, 5,000 people went through the tools. And if I look at these 5,000 people, the average of these 5,000 people for the competence cost is 71.58. It means that I am pretty low compared to the market, to the average of market, and my group, my colleagues are also pretty low. They are under the average. Being at the average of markets is not good. It's just the average. Now, if we look at the top 25, meaning that I'm going to look at the top 25 answers of the 5,000 people went through the tool. So 5,000 people, I take the 25 best answers, 25% best answer coming from different companies that are individual. The top 25 of the best answers is 83. So it means 83 is the top, 71.58 is the average of market, and our group, my colleague, is 65. So I'm much below. And we see here that's a way for improving people. And when I look at my score, it's 62. And I understand that on this score, I'm pretty low in terms of knowledge. I understand that that's where I should work. And I need some improvement there. And this is a very important point. When we look at pushing levers, which is the other way around, you see, my score is 52. I'm pretty poor in terms of know-how, practice. I'm very good in terms of knowledge. So it means that if I should improve something, is coaching. I should improve my know-how and not my knowledge. So here you understand that thanks to this to these results, I understand what I should improve, whether the practice or whether the theory. Now I get exactly the same for the group. I'm a buyer. And my manager got the report for the group of buyers. We have 20, for instance. So when I look at functional analysis, my score of the group is 72. The top 25 on my colleague is 80. And when I look at the market, we have over the market. The market, when we look at, again, the 20,000 people went through, the buyer 5,000. 5,000 people went through functional analysis. The average is 71. So it means that we are over the average. When we look at the top of a market, the top 25 tops is 83. It means that our top are not as good as the top of the market. And this is also interesting. The average is good compared to the average of market, but our best is not as good as the best one. And negotiation is another example where I see the group is 57, the group 25 is 66. When I look at the market, is 59. So the average of the group is not as good as the average of the market. And looking at the top 25, the average of the top 25 is much lower than the group. So it means that in negotiation, we should improve, and we have some way to improve. So the first point I want to say here is you can compare your results, and that's what I initially said. It's very important to assess people. It's very important to assess jobs, but it's also very important to compare to the market, to compare to what is the best on the market. And this is the way to improve. Sometimes companies say, well, we're not going to compare to the best, but we want to put a target. And what we propose as a target is 70, because it's when we say pass or fail, and 70 is the right level for passing. So 70% of your score is pass. It's not bad. So if we don't take a comparative analysis or benchmark with market, we can put a target which is 70. So here, what we say, it's we have a good way to analyze the competence, the job first, to describe the job in terms of competence. To describe jobs in terms of activities, to analyze these activities in terms of competences. When we look at each competence, to be capable to say which are the elements to validate the theory and which are the elements to validate the practice, because you can know, but perhaps you don't know how to do. And this is a very important point. So we understand that, and the last point is to be capable to benchmark. With what is best on the market. So the point is the knowledge. If we are poor in knowledge, we should improve with some theory, some training courses. If we are poor in practice, we should improve with some coaching. So basically, this is some key elements, key points we have to bring to make people sure they understand precisely well. And this is what we're going to give when we look at the results. Is we have on the left hand side the spider. You have the spider in terms of best in class, the external spider, and then we can compare the knowledge and know-how, and we understand all the average and our, and we understand which are the competences where we should improve. So this is one point. Another point which is important is at the end of results, we can say, hey, by the way, all the jobs, all the profiles have the same problems with the same competencies. So instead of running some training improvement action plan per job, it's better to improve per competence. We can also have this analysis per region, for instance, and getting some discrepancies, some differences in between some regions. So instead of developing a complete training roadmap for competence or per job, we're going to adapt this training roadmap per the differences in terms of region. So you have a lot of ways for improving competencies, but the very important point is first to decide what we want to assess, why we want to assess, and then to say, hey, how can we assess and how can we improve these actions? Now, as I said, we're going to have the interview report. My report is my competencies with my pictures and some action plans I should do for improving my results. So I'm going to receive my results, and what's important is with these results, I can go and see my manager during the interviews, every year interviews. So I can go and see and share and say what should I do. And we're going to also bring a job report from a manager. Each time we have over 10 people in a team, just for data privacy. We're capable to define a job report. So with this job report, the manager is capable to analyze and to say, hey, we should develop this training or this training. We should improve this through this coaching and so on and so forth. And this is a way of I'm going to be received by my manager. My manager already received the complete manager report, and I'm going to show my report, and we can compare, we can discuss. So this is a part of the beginning of a nice discussion with manager. A point I didn't mention initially, but the tool can also be used for pre-recruitment in some countries. I know we have some friends some colleagues from Asia, from China, from India. Sometimes it's very difficult to recruit because CVs are very complete and complex. So we have some companies who are receiving the different CVs, and they put the potential participants in a room for 3 hours, and this is a pre-screening, and the best one be received for being interviewed. So this is also one way to recruit people, whether external recruitment or internal recruitment. So we have this, we understood that why we should assess, we understood how to assess, we understood also that we have to benchmark. We have to benchmark the jobs, we have to benchmark the activities, and we have to benchmark competence to be capable to benchmark the results. So in conclusion, I would say 3 points. First is competence assessment is a must. We have to go through competence assessment for first to get the best profiles today, to be capable to create a best-in-class team ready for tomorrow needs. So what we do today is fine for today, but it should be fine for tomorrow. I know more and more we start getting the assessment of people for not for one job, but for different potential jobs had to do that. So should we go for a kind of common job, a pretty wide job, to try to get the maximum of information and then to distribute in function of results toward the different jobs or opportunities. But the idea is there is we have to assess, we have to evaluate this competence for the tomorrow needs. Okay, so we need these jobs for tomorrow's, and we need the capability to assess this job for tomorrow. So this is the first point. The second point is, as we said, it's competence. When you speak about competence assessment or competence evaluation, it's pretty touchy. So we need a clear communication up front, very strong communication. We need a big contribution and participation of the different parties, the unions, worker council, HR, procurement, and transport, everybody. Being clear about what is the objective. The first point is what is the objective? Why should we go for an assessment? And all that for deploying some action plan, improvement action plan. So this is a very critical point. And the last point is if we go for assessing people for tomorrow, and if we're not at the right level, is what should we do? How to close the gaps? How to develop define some individual trainings, how to develop some group trainings for fitting the expectation for tomorrow. So basically, when we speak about competence assessment, we have to see that in a much wider view. Is first to say, what's the strategy for tomorrow? Where are we going? Based on that, what is the organization we want to develop? Based on that is what are the jobs we're going to associate with this organization and these strategies. Based on that is based on the job is what these jobs are going to do in terms of activities. Associated to these activities is what are the competencies, what are the level of competencies we want. We don't need experts for everything, is what I said with showing the crossing matrix. So which are the expertise we want and for whom? Based on that, when this is defined and being capable to develop this questionnaire and to assess people, but the key point is being capable to benchmark with the market what is the level of a job and what's the level of the competence of people. So clear, it's a complete project to implement. It takes time, but you have to do it. And being also aligned with the regulation, aligned with the communication, and aligned with the benchmark to be capable to be sure that what you do is for the best team for tomorrow. Thanks very much again. Again, I'm looking at the question, but again, you know that to be capable, you get this presentation if you need. We can have a replay of the webinar. The point also is you can get the link if you if you want. You send me an email. So this is my email. So do not hesitate. You send me an email to get a link to test this tool. Some questions. Yes, can we customize the tool? Yes, so this is a very good question. In fact, what we do is when we work with companies, if a company has these job roles, we take the job roles, and the first thing is being sure we understand the wordings. So it's a question of wording. So you may speak about purchasing strategy, and somebody may be speaking about procurement strategy. So it's important to say understanding the wording. When we understand the wording, we can associate with this wording the correct competence we have in. Then we work together to be sure that we understood correctly the jobs and we understood correctly the competence. So yes, when we're going to assess, when we're going to customize, we can customize at different level. We can customize by doing this Lego first, by changing the wording, and even creating some competence we don't have in the tool. So yes, we customize. We want to be sure that people are answering, understand, being in their own environment. Basically, the person who is going to answer doesn't have to find the link, the bridge in between what we say and what he lives or she lives. Okay, so it has to be very totally transparent. Are the development recommendation action plans seen in the report general individual with the organization the assessment is being carried in? So when the action plans, again, I'm going to go for my assessment, I'm going to get my report, and in my report, we can or not put the recommendation. So basically, it's first when we work with a project team, we ask, do you want each individual to see the recommendation for improvement or not? Yes, meaning that we're going to show the recommendation and the training the person should get. No, because the management want to get the lead and not that everybody is going to get and asking for. So yes, we can if a project wants to. When we speak about the team, it's exactly the same, but it's the relation of management. So for each report, we can have a group report. We can have the proposed action plan. If it's not accepted by the project leader, we have we always organize a kind of communication day where we give our recommendation. We also propose some webinars to the different participants, group webinars, to explain some results, because sometimes people have some questions. What's quite interesting is each time we have been doing these webinars is that people, 99% of the case, they recognize themselves. They say, yes, it's exactly myself. So I'm weak there. Just to answer, yes, we can give all recommendation directly online if a project management wants. Okay. Another question in terms of practice. Can we have different reports along in organization in terms of regions or in terms of categories? Yeah, so for same companies, what we're doing is the companies always with project management. Company may ask some report per region when it's totally decentralized. Can ask for report per category. When we have big categories, we can also have some services and products, direct and indirect. So we have two platforms, direct and indirect, for instance. It's valid to go. Why we have two platforms? Because when you assess direct, you have some jobs. Buyers in some companies, the buyer is in charge of logistics, of inventories, and you know that in service we don't have inventory. So we have to separate. And also when we assess people in services, we try for the simulation. We try to get some examples of services such as consultancies, buying consultancy, buying travel, and so on and so forth. So we have two platforms, and so we can have also reports for products or services. We can have a report per regions. We can have report per categories. So we can have all type of reports each time. But it's cost. So we have to always find a trade-off with company to say, hey, how many people do you have in services compared to operation? Or services we have 5 people, in operation we have 200. Okay, so it's not valid to go for a specific assessment for 5 people. So this is the discussion we have always to identify the best trade-off with people, with companies. Which languages? So I say, we have in 8 or 9 languages. So today it's in Spanish from Latam. It's in Portuguese from Brazil, Italian, German, English, French, Chinese, Russian, and we go on developing in other languages such as Japanese also. You have been speaking about the new development and new competence assessment. So what's the difference? The main difference with the next generation be published by next year is that we're going to introduce much more behavior, much more on the how to do. And basically it's on the behavior and communication so we already have a lot of on leadership change communication, but we bring much more. Because as I said initially, the competence for tomorrow will be more on the relation, and we think that the relation is and the behavior is very important. So we have more on that, and we get more cases, more exercise to validate this behavior. So which is a bit tricky also, to be frank on that. But we have to do it. It will be realized by end of the first semester, we think. Okay, what are the size of companies you're working with? The largest assessment we have been running is for one big company. We run 1,200 participants in one shot, which is pretty heavy, but it works. 1,200 in different languages at the same time, so in one wave. Or speaking about wave, we think that is when you have let's say 200 people, for instance, and you're hesitating in doing it one wave, different waves, and you say, well, maybe nice to have a pilot. We agree with you. It's nice to have a pilot with 10 people, 15 people. These people should agree to share the information. These people have to be considered as tester because you have firewalls, and you have to give us the access, permitting that the logging go through the firewall. On the same site, sometimes the firewall is stronger in one part of Vancouver. So the pilot is important to test all that, the technical elements. So on one point, the pilot is also very important because the members of pilots have the ambassador. They have to promote after the tool. So yes, we should have a pilot, but it's not because you go for a pilot that you have to go a different way. So a pilot is very important, is as a tester and ambassador. But we think after that, after you did the pilot, we think it's important to go in one wave instead of getting wave after wave. So let's start with China, and then after we go blah. And no, go for one wave in one shot. Why? Because you're going to have the results at the same time. And you're going to have a complete picture at the same time, and be able to compare at the same time, so to develop your own strategy for the complete group instead of starting with one country and then say, but we don't know because we don't have a result for the other one. So if you go for global, you may go for the analysis, say, okay, it's better to go for some training on competence rather than training per jobs or training per countries, because you have a complete picture. So we think that it's important to go in one wave. So just getting back on the question, the biggest assessment has been 1,200 people in one wave in different languages, and the smallest, I think, be 15 or 20 people for small and medium companies, where we have been including some competence on procurement, some competence on logistics, so supply management, which were very important for the company, for these companies. Any other question? So again, for us, it takes around 6 weeks together. You need a project manager on your side. What takes time is the logistic aspects on your side, identifying the different person for the different jobs. What we need is an email address with a job in front of, and then we can do. But on your side, we realize very frequently that you don't have necessarily the complete email address with the corresponding jobs. So this is sometimes a pretty heavy part on your side. Communication is heavy to discuss with different stakeholders to agree on this project. So the project is just great. As I said, we have to go through the competence assessment. Again, it's not for today, it's also for tomorrow. I'm not going to repeat all this 1 hour together, but we need to define the jobs for tomorrow, associate competence, and being capable to benchmark. So if you need more, do not hesitate. This is my email address. You have also my phone number. Do not hesitate. I'll be very pleased to answer you and to send you some logging if you want. Okay, thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you. Do not hesitate. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. Take care. Thanks a lot.